You have that one going, Kate? Okay.
For some reason, by luck or whatever, my family is connected. My Hayes family is connected here to the Graces, and my Kennedy family is connected to the Hayeses. So we're, but these are Hayeses. You're not really interested in those. Here are the Graces.
Okay, we'll start with the Graces. But if you want to point out some of your family, other plots here, other headstones.
These aren't real close.
Okay.
To me. Now this right here is my great grandparents. He fought in the Civil War.
And his name was Joseph.
And he did not marry until he came back, and he was 40. And he married her. She was a good bit younger, maybe 20, 25 years old. And they had 9 children after that.
Wow.
But and she didn't outlive him for about 5 years. He lived till way up in his 90s.
Interesting. I see Homer. You don't want to start with him, though, do you? You want to start with that? Maybe Edna and Thomas first?
We can start with Homer.
Okay. So this is one of Victor's siblings.
This is his brother.
Okay.
He was injured in a car accident when he was pretty young. And I think he lost an arm. I think he had a drinking problem, and his wife and children left him. They wound up in Albany. One of them just passed away.
Is that right?
But I have not seen them in years, so I don't. But that's how that part of the family got over there.
Okay, but there's some surviving relatives of his in Albany.
He has 2 children that are living, I know.
Okay.
I'm sure grandchildren, but I don't know.
So I remember we would visit him, and he was in his wheelchair back in, I guess, the late 70s, early 80s. We'd visit him.
Yeah, he wound up in the nursing home over there. I guess they did look after him at that point. So.
Okay.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma Grace.
Oh yeah, Homer. Yeah. Homer. Poindexter threw me there.
Yeah.
Do you remember any stories about Homer? Anything?
Yeah.
What do you remember?
Matter of fact, his oldest son just passed away here a month or 2 ago, didn't he, Lay?
He did.
Yeah. Kenny.
And he would get my husband to pull his teeth.
Huh?
He would get Thomas to pull his teeth when he had a loose one or something.
Oh Lord.
So
I think
Thomas.
the last one Thomas pulled, he didn't do it anymore.
Uh-oh.
Hugh Herndon was the worst about that. And when I was young, I had a tooth about to fall out. He said, "Come here, boy." And my Uncle Hugh Herndon out there. Mother was a Herndon. And he said, "Let me feel that thing." And I never did learn. Every time I'd go let him feel it, and as soon as I did, he'd do it just like that.
Is that right?
And when, boy, I'd almost swallow that thing, you know.
That is funny.
Well, we don't know.
Uncle Homer.
Kate, he got you trained pretty well. Y'all watch your step.
Yeah, don't trip.
Understand he was. Now this is Uncle Victor and Grandmother Grim's mother and daddy.
Thomas L. and Edna.
Right. And this is their children. They had 3 boys that died early. One had a burning accident. He got burned bad and eventually died from that.
How old was he? The one that burned. Do you remember which one it was?
3 or 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
And then one had pneumonia. And he was.
And these are the 3 you're referring. Okay.
I don't know what the other one. I don't know what he died of.
Okay.
But now this is their parents. This is Uncle Victor's grandparents.
Oh wow. Okay. And she was nicknamed Jenny. Was nicknamed Duck.
Duck. He called her Duck.
And do you know why he gave her that?
I really don't know.
And then Ezekiel Grace. So these would be my great grandparents, Kate.
And now this child's grave was Uncle Frank, Aunt Stacy's child.
Okay.
I'm sure you knew Aunt Stacy.
I did. And she and Dot were close.
Yeah, this was their child. And I don't know anything about what was with him or anything.
Do you want
they had a lot of children.
Do you want to share anything about Thomas and Edna?
I just know that
that one funny story you made. I don't know if you want to put that on video or not, but it was cute. Maybe.
But she died in her late 40s. She had a cerebral hemorrhage. He lived, Daddy was in the war when both his grandparents' bodies died. And he lived to be about 75.
So yeah, so
Remarried.
1941.
That was my birthday. I was born.
It was? Was that the year we entered World War II? Oh, right after Pearl Harbor. Okay.
He and my granddaddy Hayes died when Daddy was gone.
Lane, who was Zeke?
These were.
This is Uncle Frank. Did you ever know Uncle Frank Yates Station?
I know. Yeah, I know who you're talking
That's
about.
their child.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess it was named after their. See, this is Alan's great grandparents over there. No, not there.
No, they would be my great grandparent, the great over here. And these were Tom and Roy were children of Thomas and Edna, right? And they died when they were young.
That's right. I'm mistaken. All these were theirs.
Okay.
And here is Uncle Frank's and that station's right here.
Over here.
Right.
Now, Larry, these would be my great grandparents.
You know, Aunt Stacia was the last living daughter of a Confederate soldier
She was? Okay.
when she passed away.
And she's buried over there, isn't she?
She's buried in that little church
Okay.
over it.
Oh, not here in this cemetery?
That little
Okay.
church where you
Interesting.
coming up on 65. You know what I'm talking about? That little church on there?
Yeah, on the right down there? Okay.
Yeah. I believe that's the last time I saw your mother.
Was then at that church?
At a funeral there.
Okay.
What year did she die?
My mom?
What year she died, but it happened too long ago.
You talking about my mother? You talking about my mother or?
No, she said the one that was the
Oh.
Confederate dog.
Aunt Stacia. You know.
Oh yeah. You know,
Yeah.
we had a big do it down here at Mount Zion for her.
Right, and that's where she's buried.
Yeah.
And I said that's the last time I saw Dinah was at that funeral.
She was living there.
See a lot of Hayeses in here and
Now, this is my,
Kennedys
this is my
and the.
grandmother. Yeah, this
Your dad's buried back there, isn't he?
Yeah, mother and daddy.
Okay.
Right, one with the little angel statue.
Oh, right
Mother and
behind?
daddy's, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your
great.
grandparents? Are they buried out here? Too?
Daddy's right just up the way there, just right next to us there.
Okay.
But,
And that's as
That-
far
that
back
young.
as you can trace back
yeah,
then?
that's all I know anything about
Okay.
that. Don't know much about that.
But this is my great grandparents.
That is
And this
folks
is
I
my
never know.
grandparents.
Nice.
And this is my parents.
So these are your grandparents and great grandparents, I see.
Grand and grand.
Oh,
And this is my granddad. So he died at
watch
71.
that trip.
You ask how old he was in that picture. Well, he was born in 95, so
And he was a little boy, so it was probably 1901, maybe.
something like
5
that.
or 6 years old.
probably.
And then these are your
My parents.
parents. Careful, Kate.
Well, I'm gonna have to tell you, if I ever missed anybody, that's two folks I missed.
Rosanna and Charles.
I'm telling you, they was another mother and daddy to me, and my baby sister.
And so she was in her accident about a year after I was born. It was May 1970. I was born in June of 71.
Yeah.
And that's the Kennedy clock back there. This is,
Edie, has he grown up yet? He's young.
Oh, look at Kate. Look at it. Got Larry Smith, Kate, and Robert Edward Phillips Jr. Correct?
That's correct, yeah.
it's my sister's grave. We have not got the headstone
Just
yet.
recently.
We're going to do that Wednesday. But this is the Kennedy plot. There wasn't room in the Hayes plot because we left room for my
Okay.
brother and his wife.
How old was she when she?
She was 62.
Okay. She was sick for many years, wasn't she?
She was. And Thomas's sisters, and his parents and his sister.
And what's her name again? Full name?
Terry.
Terry.
Ann.
Okay, we got her in some of those photos, I believe.
Now,
Okay.
I'll show you a grave here that's pretty interesting, but we're not connected too much. These were the first Herndons in Henry County, and we're all descended from the Herndons, Robert Everett and I. He was a preacher, and they died a day apart.
Interesting.
And I don't think one of them ever knew the other one. They had always said they wanted to die together. It's what I heard. And they died a day apart.
Sounds like the Thomas Jefferson, John Adams story or something. You know, it was something similar.
A.W. He wouldn't have been one. Was he living when this was done? I was thinking he might have had something to do with it.
I don't know who did it.
So David, who recently died, he's a descendant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
And then both of you are related to him. You went to the funeral today?
Well, I went to visitation.
Visitation. And,
There was a crowd out
See,
there. I doubt I could have gotten to church.
Okay.
Anyway.
his mother and daddy were both, well, his mother was a Herndon, and his daddy's mother was a Herndon. They were first
Interesting.
cousins.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, grandmother Edna and Thomas Grace were first cousins.
Wow.
Now that's against the law now, isn't it?
But they were.
May
first
explain what's wrong with us sometimes, right? You never know.
Right.
That was their little clan. That's all they knew. They didn't have Facebook back then, did they, Robert?
No, they
Email.
didn't. No.
Couldn't meet anyone. OK Cupid. That was their OK Cupid, right? At family reunions.
Right this day and time and look good as old folks wrote.
Well, I understand that grandmother and granddaddy really tried not to get together. I think granddaddy left here for a while to keep from marrying. But
Henry County's historian,
I didn't know that.
Larry Smith, walking the Shorterville Cemetery.
he was, because they were first cousins.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's trying to get some ideas for a new
Thomas was
story.
somewhere and worked or
Wearing his
something.
Auburn
Came
hat.
back and They got married.
I know who did.
I don't know who told me that, but somebody did.
I bet you if I was here, she could tell us the thing.
Isn't that true?
I bet. The Killebrew name rings a bell.
Well, Killebrews, they're kin to the Herndons too.
Okay.
Lester Killebrew owns
Yeah, okay.
Sun South and Val
Okay.
Collins.
Yeah, that name, yeah, definitely.
His mother was a Herndon. Well, or his daddy's mother was a Herndon. I got a chart, a Herndon chart. You got
Wonderful.
one of those? A chart that Kathy did.
Yeah, she sent me. We got a picture there. I don't know if I sent you a picture of the one that used to sit in. They said the beginning of the church, there used to be a church out in the middle of the cemetery.
Was that white wooden church that you sent?
No,
it was right here.
where
Okay.
this one was, yeah. And I don't know. We got several pictures in there. If we have time, we look at some of them.
Was that white church bricked over, or is it torn down and rebuilt? Okay.
Tore down.
Okay. Okay.
Tore down. And right out there, you can't. What they had for water then is it had a well, just a wheel rod type pump.
Interesting.
And they got a piece of metal over the. It was a hole in the ground. That's where they put it. And
Interesting.
it's covered up out there now with a piece of metal, and you can see right where it was.
You could put a time capsule in there. It seems
Yeah,
like.
could be, but.
Who
I
owns
don't
the?
know. I used to hear some of the people talk about they didn't have any heat and anything or cooling much. I don't guess. And I think the Lane may know more about it than I do. They used to leave the windows up. And some of them.
No. The only thing I really remember about the old church, the white church, is that the baptismal pool was in the floor.
It was in the floor.
Because I was baptized in it. You had to step
Well,
down
I was
into
too.
the.
But behind the pulpit, though, right?
Yeah.
Right behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Had a little loft podium thing up there, and what I remember about it was so cold. The preacher got to ask me a bunch of questions, and I couldn't hardly answer them. I was chattering so.
Yeah. Well,
Do you remember any stories about, or remember seeing Dot and Victor here often, and seeing them together? Anything come to mind, or maybe Mother when she was a?
I remember. Of course, I remember your mother more, probably more to do them, but I remember them too. And we'll show you a thing in our plaque where one of these windows, when we replaced the windows, was your mama and Charles.
Nice.
Actually
Okay.
Bought a window, and
In memory of Dot and Victor.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the way we did the windows. We didn't put any names on them or nothing, but we just got different people donated different ones.
And you know which one? Yeah. Okay.
No, I
Interesting.
don't really know which one.
You don't. It's just one of them. No. Okay.
Yeah,
Just to keep it.
It's just a window. I don't know. There's a lot of things I could tell you if I could remember. I have a problem with remembering things now.
What time were services back in her day, like when she was a teenager or a child? Same time?
Pretty much like that. Well, we did change them. I can remember years ago we changed right now, like Sunday school, to 9:45 to 10.
yeah, we need to change it back.
I remember Miss Dorothy. I just remember, woo, she was a talker.
She was a mess.
She was a talker. She was a sport model now. And I remember Mr. Victor. I don't know what
He
he
was
just
quiet.
stayed. Yeah, he was sort of quiet and
He was
reserved, and sort of stayed in the background a little bit. But she had the floor most of the time.
Did most people sit in the same pew?
Pretty much
Okay.
same pew, yeah. I can't remember back then. I was young. I don't know. But now when I got on up, it got to where, and they were gone really.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people, yeah. Some people you didn't want to get in their pews. You didn't want to park in their place.
How about that? That's funny.
Yeah,
But it's not like that now.
The story about Ain't Dorothy and the chicken, didn't I?
No, I don't think you did.
Well, when she was dating Uncle Victor, she asked him to supper, and she was going to cook a chicken. Well, she couldn't wring the chicken's neck. So she tied a brick around him and drowned it.
She did? Oh,
And
my
she didn't
goodness.
tell him for years later, and he said, I ought to divorce you right now for that.
Because he just thought it was cruelty, didn't he?
Well,
So he was.
they probably didn't want to eat a drowned chicken.
Oh, is that it? More than the method that she used, huh?
But she told that, yeah.
I never did hear that.
Oh, yeah, she
No,
did.
no. She was a sport
I
bottom.
wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I said she told me things about my family I'd probably better off not knowing. After she got,
How
I'd go
about
sit
that?
with her sometimes after she was staying with Dinah, you know.
And you know, I know you've been there down here at the house where they lived,
Mm-hmm.
where your mama lived.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was talking to a fellow the other day that lived, and I told him y'all was coming up. He said, well, anytime y'all want to come or go by there, you're more than
Oh, the owners who live there now? We can do that? That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll do that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
We'd like to.
And, but they said they
They're the little fields, is that right?
Littlefield,
Okay.
Yeah. But
So I'll let you know.
Welcome to come by there anytime.
That's good to
I told
know.
him I'd tell you.
Great. Well, thank
I
you.
did see
Yeah.
him this morning. He bought
Yeah.
Walt some more peas and Walt our son. He loves to shell them.
That first gate, when you walk in, his marker had broken in two.
He says
And
gamble.
several years ago, I fixed it.
Yeah.
And his name was John Lawson Gamble. And
That name sure rings a bell.
he was born here. And he was the son of Andrew Gamble, one of the first pioneers to come in. And Andrew Gamble's daughter was a sister of Major General William Irwin's wife, and she's buried with General Irwin up there, her and her 9-year-old daughter. And we keep that cemetery fixed.
Yeah.
But
That's up there just other side of Preston Kelly and them, right?
Yeah, where Miss McCrawford lived.
yeah, before the Civil War, John Lawson Gamble, he pulled up stakes. He had, I believe, 6 or 7 sons and 1 daughter. Well, his daughter was my great-grandmother Smith. And his wife is buried in Balcom Cemetery.
Yeah.
But he went to St. Augustine County, Texas, before the Civil War. And stayed, and my great-grandmother Smith was born out there. Well, after a while, after the war, he stayed out there a pretty good while, and after the war, he wanted to pack up and move back here. So he loaded up all the family, and they started toward Henry County, and got on into Washington County, Mississippi, and he up and got sick and died. So they buried him in a little cemetery out there. And kept on coming. Well, 4 years later, his 2 older sons went back out there and exhumed his body, and they buried him here.
Well, I'm wondering, I don't know, I can't remember. We got some old church minutes back there. And we found somebody, Marilla Wolf found them back years and years ago. And we got them put up. You can never about touch them down there from
I know it.
But it mentioned in there.
I see more Herndons, and I think this must be Gary Fleming's cousin Gary's mother,
Moved here.
right? Madge. So she'd be one of my relatives. So they also married into the Herndon family, right? I see Herndons.
No, she married him.
There's a Herndon right here. Maybe she did. A daughter. See that?
No, that was my grandmother's sister. She was not married.
Okay. All right. But she was a Herndon and connected to the Herndons we've been
Right.
discussing.
She was my
Okay.
grandmother's sister.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Was it Anna or Anna?
Anna.
Anna.
She lived in Miami for years, and then she moved back up here.
Nice.
Of course, there's, your mother.
Oh yeah, the Graces.
But the interesting one I was going to show you is the 3 hearts over there.
Oh yeah. Well, tell me about the three hearts as we go by Granddad Victor's, Dot's, and Mother's, where she is. Her father, that would be my great-grandfather, so that would be Dot's father. And he lived with them for a period of time from the maybe late 50s to the time he died, 1966.
Well, this is this man's first wife
Mm-hmm.
and his last wife. Not his second, but his last wife.
So she died, and then he married this lady, Nellie.
No, there were people between.
Although this says Jack. Okay, oh, so Edna. Oh, yeah, I see it now. So Jack is the one who married Edna.
Who Edna was a Grace.
Okay.
She was...
and she died in 1953.
That's the first dead person I ever saw. I was 3 years old. She was my mama's first cousin and my daddy's first cousin.
Interesting.
Because she was...
and named after Edna.
Right.
Who was Thomas's
She
wife.
was beautiful. She had a brain tumor, and she had a little girl that was a year younger than me. That's how I know how old I was, because I know how old Julianne was when her mother died.
She was only 24 years old when she died.
But I remember my mother,
Mm-hmm.
you know, back then they brought to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to the house, to his parents' house. I remember my mother picking me up and letting me look at her. I remember how pretty she was.
Prime of her life,
had,
right?
She and Jack and my mother and daddy had a double wedding.
Interesting.
And
Where was this wedding? In the church? Or
no,
not in Miami?
my mama was up at 16. They went to Miami on their honeymoon.
Oh,
all
they
went
did,
to Miami
okay.
on their honeymoon, because I had 3 aunts down there.
Interesting. Oh, Anna was one of those.
Right.
Nice.
But yeah, she was my daddy's first cousin, because my grandmother Hayes, her mother was my grandmother Hayes' sister,
Mm-hmm.
and she was my mama's first cousin, because her daddy was my granddaddy Phillips's brother.
Nice.
You know, sister
Interesting.
and brother. It's
Oh,
kind
yes.
of confusing, but they were. And I remember my daddy coming in and telling Mama she had died. I remember sitting in my little yellow rocking chair and
Hearing that.
But they were pretty close.
So then after she
then-
died, then Jack married Nellie.
No, Jack married 2 or 3 times before that.
Oh.
After that, Nellie was the last one.
Okay, that's what you mean.
His mother was a Poindexter.
Mhm.
She
Uncle Tom Farmer. Okay.
Right. His mother was a Poindexter, which was Edna Grace's. She was Edna Poindexter's sister.
Oh, interesting.
And
Okay.
her husband left her or something
Mm-hmm.
young, and she and Uncle Tom lived with grandmother, and then he grew up with grandmother and Uncle Victor.
Is that right? Well, that's very interesting. And there's the Herndon name again. How about that?
That's another one of my grandmother's sisters.
Interesting.
So see, I'm double kin to him. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kin to him through the Graces and to his children.
Okay.
Through the Graces and the Herndons. My children are triple kin to some of the Phillipses,
It's amazing.
because
And
I tell you, my grandmother's sister married my granddaddy Phillips's brother. Well, that made them double cousins, and then one of them married Thomas's grandmother, which made
fascinating.
my kids
Yeah.
triple kin to
Wow.
Gary and that crowd.
when are you going to do a family reunion and get all the families together?
Bobby, the one that was my husband's, my father-in-law's first cousin.
Mm-hmm.
She just had her 31st great-grandchild, so
31. That's amazing.
she had 7 children.
How old is she now?
I think she's about 88 or 89, but you would never know it. She's at church every Sunday. She's fixed up.
In good shape?
She
And
lives right up the road. She
can walk and go around, not
you
in a
would never
wheelchair?
know.
Okay.
Oh, no, you
Okay.
wouldn't- I don't know anything's wrong with her.
Okay.
And all her children live pretty close by. She's never lost a child or a grandchild.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives right up the road. I think she still maybe cooks dinner. One son lives right by her, and another lives back behind her, and a daughter
Mm-hmm.
back behind. I mean, it's,
Very interesting.
yeah.
How are your kids doing? Good.
They shouldn't have been moved.
As of this exact moment, right? All right. I'll get it. sunset out at the Shorterville Baptist Church Cemetery in Shorterville, Alabama. Where's the sun? I can do it.
Like a full pork chop, real pork chop.
Gravy, right?
Yeah.
She makes
Man.
really good pork
Man.
chops, meatloaf, all that.
Yeah. I always made a point to get some of that.
Yeah.
But usually, see, we didn't have enough room to share and take it for everybody. Most of the time we'd have to come over in the rooms. A lot of people sit around in the room.
Wow.
So,
Where would she sit in the old church? When you have an idea
Old
where they
church?
might have.
the old church, that picture we're looking at, she was right here. I say she was right. But now that other church, she wasn't quite as big.
So rather
She would be sitting, we can go back and look at it, she would be right along here somewhere.
Interesting. That's nice. Katie, you video? That's sweet.
Uh-oh.
So this is where Mother would sit with her
Yeah.
friends and all?
Yeah.
What about Dot and Victor?
They would be more to the
The
back.
back of the back.
Yeah.
And does she sometimes come on her own? Is Victor always with her, or with men? I guess maybe he.
I didn't
farmed
see
some
them
on Saturdays.
apart too often, best I can remember. See, when you say she left here, 70s?
76.
76.
So in 75, he was 72.
That's
when he
been-
died. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was in good shape
he
until
was.
that time.
He
so-
was. He was. But I'm trying to think how old I was then. See, I was
In
pretty young.
1975. Yeah.